Hello, everyone. How are you? Welcome. My name is Katie Gideon, and I will be the on camera facilitator for this Sunday weekly setup social. And what's surprising, believe it or not, we are getting ready to set up for the whole year, week 30 of that year, which I think is like a wild statistic. Even though it is just a random week in July, it seems. So, this is going to be July week 3 and the Sunday evening social. So, welcome everyone. It is always great to see each and every one of you in our chats. You will also see in the chat my co-facilitator, Jen O, the former Team Texas. We are always glad to be here. We thoroughly enjoyed this because when we first started out as facilitators, we are both in Texas. I have managed to jump all over the place, which is super fun, super fine. So you just get to keep up with that. But I love seeing all of our returning socialers. It is always great to see your names pop up in the chat and always nice to see each and every one of you being able to greet other people as we get together for this next hour, as well as if you are new, welcome. We are glad that you're here as well. Just a few little random notes. One in particular is that you can participate in as much or as little as you want when it comes to these socials. We have the chat, which leads to the larger group chat. And so that is where you can set the chat to everyone. It defaults to hosts and panelists, which is just myself and Jen. So we can always help with issues and concerns there. But we also assume you kind of wanted to hang out and chat with the other folks along there as well. So we are first thing to take note of is that we are doing another live event on Wednesday, July 22nd, the Savoring Summer. This is going to be a 75-minute event because when Mayha gets on these live chats, they just seem to keep going and going. And so you'll be able to hang out. It will be a free event. Jen is hosting those events there. If you're not going to be available, definitely reach out to hello@silkensonder.com beforehand because sometimes the links, we do record it. They will include some of those, but usually for a short time, just because they are really awesome and super special and a little bit something to enjoy live. But you'll get to deep dive a lot of into that. And she also does a really amazing job of continuing prompts and exercises for Savoring Summer, but also utilizing some of the really cool tools and features that Silk and Sonder has to offer. So now we're going to go through those very important community guidelines. Be kind and courteous to yourself and others. No promotions or spam. Respect everyone's privacy. No hate speech or bullying. Limit repetitive product and accessory questions. And then redirect customer care inquiries to our team, hello@silkensonder.com. And please definitely provide all that feedback. This is a great time now to provide feedback. I know it seems wild to be thinking about next year, but this is the time that all of those changes and corrections and ideas are being kind of formulated now. And based on your feedback, not only do we tailor some of those live events and socials as well, but because of the feedback that you all provided, we may have added another event this month that we can't talk about quite yet, but certainly based on the feedback, it was what was got added. And so we're really excited about that. And then, as always, Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the through the power of community, but you're responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So we always say we are glad that you've come exactly as you are. If you have had a great day, we are glad you've had a great day. We want to help celebrate those great days. If you have had a not so great day, we want to provide the extra love and support and thoughts and feelings towards all of those. And even as we talk about some of the crunchier, the less fun and friendly ideas, we also want to make sure that you can make that decision, set up those emotional barriers or boundaries that's necessary because you should leave this a little bit lighter, a little bit happier. This should not certainly make you feel down and out about whatever progress you are or are not making. And so, leaning into the July month of savoring, I think, again, I still can't quite separate my initial thought with savoring because I've always been, I'm a big, I love all the cooking challenges. I'm a big Top Chef fan, all of those. So I can't have a hard time thinking of savory without thinking of savory or sweet food. That's just on me and how my brain works. So I have tried to kind of incorporate or think about other ways to expand it. And I came across these two ideas. which there is no rush, take the scenic route, and kind of born to be playful, forced to prioritize productivity, because I do feel like I'm one of those definitely like productivity people. So it does become a little bit challenging when you're like, I'm trying to savor the moment, I'm trying to enjoy it, but I'm also trying to think of point A to point B to point C and how we're going to get there and how long we're going to take it. So there was a New York Times article that I came across, and it really was called The Scenic Route. And it was exploring this idea that the summer weekend offers a bounty of daylight that we feel the duty bound to exploit properly. Again, prioritizing those 16 summer weekends that we have in whatever fashion, and almost like, especially in the era of social media, having to outdo everybody's, super pretty, elegant summer. But sometimes that sun and fun mandate becomes a little bit of an unnecessary burden. And that's where the author kind of talks about a story about how she had this great kind of early morning day trip planned with her friends. But then as they were driving home on one of those, prized weekends, ended up going the wrong way and ended up having to sit in traffic. And instead of trying to think of it as I am sitting in traffic, all of these people are missing their families and all these other things that maybe they may have had planned for the day, it was sitting there thinking that because we're taking this scenic route, it is the opportunity to sit and listen to music and talk and sing and have all of these other experiences instead of about thinking all the stuff we're missing or all the things we can't plan or all the things we can't do. So it is that opportunity to, again, take the moment, be a little bit more present. Jen and I were sitting there talking about the taking the long way home, because I know there are definitely some times I'm very music driven. So I do listen to a lot of my music on shuffle. So it's like when that magic song pops up that I obviously could play on my own. But it's always a little nice when you maybe miss that last stoplight because you're like, ooh, I get to sit and listen to this song. So I think it becomes that idea of going the long way home, taking a scenic route, kind of slowing down a little bit, understanding that productivity is really important and really valuable. But if you just kind of have the playfulness, the idea, embracing some of these slower kind of idea type things, I think it becomes a little bit more enjoyable. And I think that is really what savoring is trying to do. And so I think that's always helpful. So we have our agenda. We're going to go over the mind map. We're going to do our rosebud thorn, and then we're going to do those weekly setup pages. So the rosebud thorn is going to be on page 44, and then we're going to again tackle week 30 with those 46 and 47 page in your journal. I'm seeing the notes about the volume, so maybe I'll sit a little closer to my computer. I'm in a unique setup. So please join us in your Savoring Mind Map. If you have already set it up, go ahead and find that page. I am Team Back page, which you'll see my example on the next slide. And so we're going to go to that and we're going to work on that. So this is our opportunity to explore the theme a little bit deeper each week because it is unique to the weekly setup. And we do include the previous weeks and the ability to do that, but it doesn't mean you're behind or you've missed anything. This is just an opportunity to reflect a little bit deeper, look at a little bit more of those pleasures and sometimes overlooked experiences. And we certainly enjoy this opportunity to just get those thoughts and ideas flowing. And what's great about these is you can always come back to these prompts throughout the week. If you don't quite have an answer today and you don't even have to find a specific answer, sometimes it's just an opportunity to sit and think with things in a different lens, through a different lens, through a different perspective, reframe something to speak a little bit more to the week that you have. So the first week we did look at savoring those things that were overlooked, and then we tied that into savoring media, which to me was very big and very valuable. And now we're going to look at it kind of in that savoring childhood. And do not get hung up on the childhood word, um, because it's not necessarily childhood itself. It's the qualities, experiences, and ways of being that evoke a bit of nostalgia. And so what part of your childhood is still worth savoring today? What qualities of your younger self would you like to invite back into your life? And so I've taken those two questions. Those are the first ones listed. And I've added a couple others that I thought was helpful, at least for me, to kind of reframe this idea because of the childhood component. And so it was, can you think of ways this week to bring back some of the nostalgia or wonder? Or even I always think of like the lighter things that we've done, because I know when we have like a heavier or a trickier theme like courage or confidence or momentum, some of those ones that are truly tricky. Everyone is like, oh, but I loved enchantment, or I loved wonder, or I loved play, or I loved nostalgia, coming back to some of those lighter things. And that's the same concept that I like to see as well as I feel like, at least for me, the perspective change that becomes a jaded element to it, and for sure the rose-colored glasses component. So that's why I also like what are ways to savor kind of some of those lighter feelings or the actions of the week. Because it was one, again, as Jen is talking about, we were kind of leaning into the good vibes. How can we lean into some of those games, some of those hobbies? What I really pivoted into for me is I'm definitely a summer baby. So I think of all the things that happen in the summer. So it was like, what are my things that I like to savor about summer? And it came back to the media with like summer blockbusters. So the other day, and I think it's probably today as well, Jaws is on. So there's a Jaws, and I love the Jaws because I love sharks. Was an oceanography major, and then going to the beach. And so all of those things that definitely evoke all these things. Some of those other summer blockbusters, Toy Story came out. Toy Story's always been one of those. So kind of leaning into some of those. And then, as I was saying, a lot of the music artists that I listen to, specifically the Goo Dolls, they always released an album in the summer. So being able to sit and listen to some of those, I think of like, again, some of those really fun summer albums. And a lot of the artists that I grew up loving in my 90s, hashtag 90s summer, are releasing new music. So I've been able to go through the Spotify playlists. And so the lead singer of The Killers just introduced a new album. Michelle Branch has come out with a new album. So it was also leaning into some of those like iconic summer things. And then, of course, the summer reading program, because I'm back in Tulsa. I was able to sign up for that. I volunteered before I could have a job at the library. So it was like kind of getting excited about the summer reading program. And that's how we've delineated people like in our household. You have your avid readers, and then you have the summer reading book crowd, which means they only read in the summer. So it was kind of leaning into some of those fun ideas that it was more of, I would say, less of kind of focusing on my childhood, but more of like the summer savory things that I like to do that I feel are so iconic to summer. So that's kind of what I leaned into. But as a reminder, be kind to yourself with this one. If you need to reframe this prompt and lean into something else, please do so. And even that's skipping it. And as we say, you don't force what doesn't flow. So it's really thinking of other things. But like I said, I leaned a little bit more heavily into the summer nostalgia, savoring those things with the like I said, things that were iconically summer. So I'm going to give you some to work on this, and we will see you soon. Thank you everybody for sharing. That last song was The Age of Not Believing from a maybe lesser known Disney film, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, which I loved. I love Angela Lansbury and I think she's fantastic in it. So I highly recommend hearing her version. But I do think it's a really nice nod to childhood because it is kind of outgrowing kind of all the things that are fun and happy and making things special. It's a really lovely song. And like I said, I do think Bedknobs and Broomsticks is an underrated film. Highly recommend that as well. I think it's really fun. But thank you, everybody, for sharing. I know this certainly can be a slightly difficult topic, especially when you just hit those kind of keywords that you just can't quite move past. And I fully understand that. And so we were kind of aware that that was the direction. But what I loved seeing is almost the pivot into, again, maybe some of those things that are unique to summer or things that you savor in summer, things that kind of have it. I love the fireflies, those type of things. I loved hearing the summer reading program from a librarian perspective. So it's always entertaining because I think it's always fun to fill out these mind map questions in our socials because you get a really fun perspective. And at the same time, if these are a little bit more challenging or a little bit harder to think on, there's always someone out there that can be empathetic and be in the same thing. So it makes you feel just a little less alone, which I feel like is always kind of what we crave, as always. But if you didn't have a chance to finish it or work on it, you can revisit it as we go. And at the same time, that's what I enjoy about the mind maps is this is just a way to kind of brush off the cobwebs, get a little going, but we don't always have to come from, we don't have to solve all of the problems in this one little prompt. And so now we're going to continue into our reflection, which is the rosebud thorn exercise. This is going to be on page 44 in your July journal. And this is, again, another opportunity to now take a specific snapshot of the week that you had and celebrate the rose, something that will well highlight something that made you happy, that made you smile, that you were proud of, as well as shift focus into a bud, which is the emerging opportunity. Excuse me. The emergent opportunity is something that's gonna on the horizon, something that's out there, something that's available, kind of something that you can look forward to. And then the thorn is also to give it, on that teeter totter that is life. It gives you an opportunity to at least acknowledge that kind of hard spot, the something that, is a little bit negative, something that took up a little bit too much time, energy, and effort in your brain and space and all those things. And that's why I like the toad. It's basically returning brain laundry. How many people do their laundry on a Sunday? I'm definitely one of those people. So this is just the laundry for your brain. And we're separating those thoughts into lights and darks and the opportunity to either throw the darks into the washing machine to clean them and dry them and moving along, or just leave them as. So see, love it. You all are doing them now. So this is now just your brain laundry. So the highlight for me this week, I'm staying with my parents because I'm in between jobs, and they have an old dog. He's a King Charles Cavalier. He's 12, and he is such a sweetheart. And but they went on a trip with my nephew, and I was left to care for the older dog. And we had good days, and I was excited because he has medical needs, medication needs. He is a trooper, and so it was more of the success of he had good days and was nothing to worry about so that my parents could enjoy this little trip that they were able to take with my nephew. So Reese hung in there and bless him for it. A bud for me, the emerging opportunity, as I said, the summer reading program. So I completed mine. I read my 4 books as an adult and turned it in. And I got a fun sticker that I was excited about. And then they give these really fun coupon books. I'm excited to use those because those are always fun to a bunch of different events and different restaurants around here. So celebrate in style. And because I am kind of again in between space, and the last thing I want to do is acquire a bunch of books, the library has been so wonderful, not only here, but also in Scotland. So I love the library being able to try out books that I probably want to read, but I probably don't want to keep. It's like, it's an amazing concept. Who knew? But I love it. I love using it. And it's all those things that make me really happy. And then the thorn, I just have to acknowledge, I did not know him personally. I did not know him in any way, shape, or form. I did follow him on Instagram, but I was very sad with the death of Sam Neill. He's been in obviously a lot of films that I like. The Jurassic Park series I like in all of their good kind of amazing, and you have your good ones, you have your bad ones. and he continues to support it. But I also like he was in an amazing miniseries version of Dr. Zhivago with Keira Knightley. I love Peaky Blinders, so he's just one of those that when he pops up, I get really excited. So I'm going to be quite sad that he's no longer going to pop up in random TV series and miniseries and films. So that always makes me a little sad. So if you would like to share your rosebud thorn for the week, we would love to celebrate those, acknowledge the lesser, and kind of see what type of weeks we all had. But again, this is on page 44, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I loved seeing all of your rosebud thorns. Some of you guys had some amazing ones, as well as always getting just extra thoughts for those that have had some really tough thorns. And I feel like they're always across the board. It's everything from the heat to medical challenges to family challenges, to just the feelings challenges. It's always one of those. I feel like even my brain melts a little bit, where you're just kind of in a little bit of a funk. But loved seeing all of these. And what I do really enjoy about the rosebud thorn exercise is that it does give you an opportunity to kind of put all of these in a single line, single page, to again acknowledge it and decide what you're going to do with it as you're sorting your brain laundry. Because you can decide whether you're going to clean it and then fold it and put it away, if you're going to clean it and you're going to wear it right away, or if you're just going to let it, I don't know, live elsewhere, or maybe go into a clean and then donate pile. But I think it's just that opportunity to be able to have that moment of, somewhat control in the idea of what am I going to take with me into the next week or what am I going to leave into the previous week. So I always love the ability to do that at the end of each week. So now we're going to move into those weekly planner pages. And this is going to be on page 46 and 47 in your July journal. Don't worry, I will continue to cue them as we go if you lose your place. But I feel like quite a few of you are in your flow already. And if I ever need to go back to a different slide or back to a different example, please let me know. But then we also wanted to just take a moment to highlight the inspiration tip in the Silk and Sonder app. If you go to the how to, this has all the different categories that you can get some more inspiration for if you need to find it. A lot of those are there, and I know they've gone through and kind of cleaned it up a little bit, curated it a little bit more. So you always have those as an option, as well as the kind of general feed that we have there, as well as the socials that are recorded. You can always go back and see through those. So I think it's a great little kind of nugget to remember that it is there. And then, as I always frame my weekly setup socials, is what do you need this week? Because sometimes what you need is exactly written on the page, and each of those cute little boxes with each of those kind of questions that you need to answer with the goals, the to dos, the habit and activity tracker, and then the next page. Sometimes what you need is a complete repurpose and a revamping of those because your week is just going to look a little bit different. And sometimes what you need is a break from those pages or those sections because, again, what you need this week is going to look a little bit different than maybe a week that you needed in January or a week that you need in August or a week that you need in November. So I have found that really helpful. And that's usually kind of how I drive and organize my pages for kind of what do I need? I want this page to meet my expectations and help me meet my own expectations for the week ahead. So I start at the top with page 46 of This Week I Want to Feel. Again, I turn it into a question with how do I want to feel this time next week? Because that gives me that kind of central goal, that idea as I'm experiencing the roses, the buds, and the thorns of the weeks. Again, as I go the high and lows, the roller coaster of the week that I've had, this is an opportunity for me to always come back to center and be like, what do I need to do to either change or provide help? What do I need so that I can continue to move into how I want to feel this time next week? And sometimes it's 1% better, 5% happier. It's been really hot in Oklahoma, so I am definitely focused on the 10% more hydrated just because I've been getting headaches because of those dehydration. So definitely leaning a little bit more into that. Maybe it is being as relaxed as this cute little giraffe reading a book, enjoying summer, savoring it on a blanket. Maybe it's the duality of less of something, more of something. Maybe it is like I am in the eagle's perch, kind of those ideas. And again, you don't have to define it. It's whatever kind of you're going to cue in how you want to feel. Maybe it's just, I don't quite know the vibe, but I want to be as happy and as content as the cute little manatee in the flower crown. So you have that opportunity to kind of come up with these ideas. So I'm going to play a quick song, but if you want us to know how you want to feel this week, we would love to see that kind of intentional optimism that we may be carrying into the week ahead. Thank you for sharing. And please continue to share in the chat, even as I move to the next prompts, the next pages, because Unfortunately, these do not last forever and we have a set time. So now that we've kind of established how we want to feel this time next week or what we want to feel this week, kind of that overarching need framework that we can now bring in those major three goals as well as the to-do list. And I like to combine these sections because I do think they work really well hand in hand, because I like to think of my major three goals as kind of the mental and emotional reminders I need to get through the week. And then the to-dos are what I consider kind of the traditional, how are we going to fit all of these pieces together so that I can reach these mental and emotional reminders so that I can feel the way I want to feel this time next week. And so a lot of people will look at it in the form of kind of categories. Maybe it's a mind, body, a soul goal. And what I found is our brain is infatuated with the alliteration technique. So if I'm having a hard time kind of finding a focus point or getting things accomplished, I will lean a little bit more into the alliteration. So I like the idea of revisit, restore, relax. But at the same time, just because it is asking for three, you don't always have to provide three, and they don't have to be major. Maybe they're just minor. Maybe they're just the three biggest things you want to accomplish. So this idea of embrace, it's kind of, again, those gentle reminders of mindfulness, wonder, and peace. So a way to embrace all of those things is kind of the theme for the week, if you will. Maybe you have three different goals that you want to achieve each day. So you have it during the early, the midday, and the evening. Maybe, again, one big goal leaning into that frog, fun, fierce, or even the categorization, create, consume, cavort, and commune. Those are always great. Maybe it is two, just a home and a work, or a home and a play, a home and a savor, all of those fun things, a sweet and a savor. Or again, maybe leaning into those reminders of kind of affirmations, mantras. I liked the bottle rockets because, again, July I still associate with kind of Independence Day, even though that was significantly earlier. But then also you can switch the two, which is why I think they go really well hand in hand with your kind of the goals sitting in that to-do column, and then adding a little bit more of the specific, very beautiful handwriting, by the way, of the to-dos into that category. And so then we have the weekly to-dos, and these can be your traditional to-do list, or maybe it's more of a to-do list. I loved in one of the socials yesterday, even just the act of reframing these, because she was writing all of her to-dos on her on a post-it note, carrying them over week to week instead of rewriting them. Oh, Christine, that was you. It is. It's beautiful handwriting. And so she was writing all of her to-dos on the post-it note because maybe they were taking a little bit longer than the week structure, which I always say there are certain to-dos that definitely come in parts. So she was able to carry that through and then wrote down when she completed it in the to-do, definitely felt better about the progress, or again, that productivity that we feel like we have to hit. So I loved that idea. Maybe again, it is just a reshuffling, restructuring of those to-dos, and the Eisenhower matrix is a great way to do that. The do, decide, delegate, or delete. I don't delete anything. I usually just delay it. Same thing with the Pomodoro technique. That's a really good way to almost micromanage your to-do list. I highly recommend it when I just am not in the mood to do any of those to-dos. It's one of those that needs to happen. And really at the top of my to-do list, because I was in the UK for 3 years, I actually have to file UK taxes again. So that I have punted all last week. So I need to buckle down and get that done this week. So maybe that's my one thing that I need to get done this week for sure. Maybe you want to structure a to do a day, because either way, whether it's to done on a specific day or it's something to do on a future day or today, it's going to be to done, which is always great. And so sometimes it's a needs and a wants. A don't do this instead. I love the kind of gamification of the to dos, but the one in the middle is a kind of color by number, color by activity. So each time you do that, you kind of get to add that color. So you get to spread those out. And I always love the idea of including daily rituals, or kind of some of those things that you use when you come to your journal routine, because maybe that's a gentle reminder that you need there. And as we said, maybe it's a not to do, maybe it's a to be, maybe it's savoring. And again, we do love stickers, and we love that stickers want to fulfill their sticker destiny of being utilized. So maybe you want to put a sticker on this because you have a different structure that you're going to do. So I know that was a lot. I'm going to stop talking and we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. So now that we're on page 46, we're going to move to that bottom section, which is that wonderful habit and activity tracker. And usually, when I talk about what do I need this week, sometimes when I do need a break, or if I want to be more present, or if I'm on vacation, this is a section that kind of goes out the door because I love how it works with the monthly habit tracker. So the monthly habit tracker are the things that I want to do every single day. I then bring those things from the monthly habit tracker into the weekly habit and activity tracker with the lens of reality. So, as I said, I am a creature of habit. There are three things that I want to do every day: move, read, and journal. I then have to figure out how to incorporate them into my day. And I've certainly pivoted a little bit more. I saw someone wanting to be a little bit more selfish with their self care, and I highly support that. And that's kind of how I pivoted with these habit and activities because the three things that I want to do every day on top of, my work requirements, school requirements, life requirements, I found that those are the three things that I need to take a break from. And what I need to have those three things kind of each day so that I can refresh and recharge. So that's how I've kind of prioritized these things. So I've kind of taken them, made them special, put them on a pedestal. And you'll see kind of why if you haven't been to my socials before where I talk about it. But it is maybe leaning into the typical goals for things. But maybe this is where kind of the squishier ideas are. Maybe the gentle reminders: spend time outside, be kind to yourself, get enough sleep. Some of those things that are not necessarily trackable, but still being able to track, or maybe it's the stop doing, maybe it's the savoring of, maybe it is your specific morning routine that you want to make sure you do every single day. Maybe it is your journal routine that you want to do every day, because I do love the weekdays and the weekends can always look a little bit differently. Same thing with, you don't have to use all five spaces. Maybe it's two things, three things. Like I said, for me, it's definitely three things that I'll incorporate a fourth, which will usually be something as simple as like find the sun is the one that I really like. And that's either get outside. So I'll take and I'll do my workout outside. I will sit and read in the sun inside, especially now that it's super hot. But it's kind of, that became a really fun challenge for me of how can I kind of make these things go as I'm exploring all these. Same thing with, I repurpose my expense tracker as an adventure list, bucket list, which you'll see why, because I have found that those are really fun ways to incorporate it, things that I've already done. So even like the trip to the library becomes more fun and magical because I'm doing something else. And I also like the idea of 5 days to schedule every month, which is an unplugged day, a self care day, a reset day, a learning day, a fun day. I've also used these as like themes for the week. So my reset days are the ones where I'm a little behind, maybe in work stuff, going through my emails, kind of catching up with all those things. So I've kind of incorporated those as like my theme for this week is going to be this. Same thing when I've had some really busy ones, I'll either lean into a fun week or a self care week. So I always like those. And then, as we said, we love these kind of challenges for inspiration each day. So the one on the right is the Silk and Sonder one. So these are added prompts or added things that you can incorporate on a daily basis. And same thing with, I do like the Ambitiously Alexa. I follow her on Instagram. She also has really great to theme challenges as well, which I love the fact that my social media now provides these suggestions. And then when I was talking about bucket lists and those ideas, I love the iconography for this because I feel like, again, these are things that I've already kind of sort of doing. We're just kind of making them special. We're calling it almost like a productivity thing because I can write them down on my expense tracker and repurpose them for those ideas. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to play another song and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I love seeing all the conversation in the chat that I feel like I always have to come in and weigh in on because it's so much fun. That is also, I think, what is special about all of these socials. Okay, so now we are going to move to page 47, and I'm going to combine all of these just because I lovingly refer to this side as the B side, thinking in terms of a record. So we just completed and listened to the A side, top to bottom, all really good songs, made the top Billboard, probably top 20. And now we're going to flip over with some of those, what I call kind of hidden gems, because I feel like they're great when I need them, but it's something that I just don't always need on a regular basis. So if you're using the meal plan, you can use it as a traditional meal plan and something that you are planning for, or you can do it more as a meal tracker, kind of done in real time, especially if you're on a specific healthcare journey or working with a specific healthcare professional. I also like the one good thing idea. This is one of those, if you have just a little bit of a rough time, finding roses, finding those celebrations, that was actually homework that was given to me by my therapist was you need to write down something that you did well every single day. And it doesn't matter how big or how small, even if it's like I woke up with my first alarm. So it's those type of things. So I think that's always a great way to do it. It's also, again, it makes you feel a little bit better, make you savor maybe some of the good things that you had, the good day that you had, leaning into some of those better things instead of dwelling on the negative, which I tend to absolutely do. I also love the idea of turning it into a meal plan for the soul or a meal plan for your creativity, because the meal plan, this is where some people write their daily prompts or their response to the daily rituals, especially if you work with Jenny, who is our 24/7 coach. She can provide a lot of suggestions, so you can work it there. And then, like I said, we have not only people who have amazing handwriting, but we have amazing cartoonists, doodleists, animators, whatever you see. So I think it's always a fun, maybe light break to take, kind of savor some of that fun, savor the nostalgia, savor some of the whimsy, lean into that because I know people not only do doodles, but they will also do haikus and they will do creative kind of just little poems, little isms, or even write down the affirmations and kind of their thoughts and feelings to it. So I think those are always really fun and they look great. You also have the mind body health plan, which is something that you can either plan for or something that you can do in real time. So maybe if you're not using the meal plan for the meal plan, we have folks that will plan out the dinners because that's either what the larger household is working in. I am a big fan of that because I feel like that's how our family always is like, your breakfast and lunch, you're on your own, but we all come together with the dinner. I love the I feel I need. That is such an elegantly effective and simplistic exercise. And I always think it's a great way to kind of take a little bit back of the control or what you can control in your sphere of influence throughout the day, check in with why am I feeling this way and what do I need to do? Because I have found that when I get warm, overheated, temperature wise, I tend to get a little bit more flustered, a little bit more short, a little bit more anxious. So then it was like, well, maybe I just need to go and sit in front of a fan for a little bit and calm down. But it was something I would not have found out had I not done that little exercise. Maybe leaning again into the unplugging, the bucket list, the theme, the 7 types of rest, self care, all of those ideas can go great there. I love these. Again, like I said, I spent time curating my social media. So these are the type of things that I get, which I love. And so leaning into little joys, glimmers, more affirmations, and just gentle reminders, because I feel like that's what these socials should be for. Because when you're out there, alone and unafraid in your day to day stuff, these can be a little helpful. And then you do have the shopping list, which can go hand in hand with that meal plan. But also we love bingo boards. We love the gamification and things. And so coming up with self-care bingos, just for fun bingos. I know Trixie has a birthday this week. So we love, the idea of a birthday bingo. So they're really fun to do milestones and kind of all of those things. But again, maybe it's a true shopping list with the don't buy and buy, social check-ins, mini breaks, the to be reminders, or where the stickers live, or if you want to look for glimmers instead of the triggers, all of those wonderful ideas. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to play one more song, which I feel like is a song of the summer, maybe last summer, but it still makes me happy. And the nostalgia leaning into, I love a good violin turned fiddle. Something about it just makes me always really happy. And then we will close. So we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And can you believe it? We have that very last section on page 47, which is the I am loving. And this one I think is so underrated as well. I feel like you could turn it into a word bingo. How many times did I say underrated? But I do think it is because this is one of those really fun things to just kind of no rhyme or reason, no context needed, just the things that you're loving. And on this page, I always include kind of previous social quotes or memes or photos that I found on it. And I know we were talking about puns earlier in the day, so I loved the moral support from the morel mushrooms. So if you need that, the little mushrooms are cheering for you. And so, as always, can you believe it? We have reached the end. We would love to continue the conversation in this Look and Sonder app. I'm already seeing some of our folks talking about how they're going to post the visuals to go with some of these ideas in the app. And so we'd love to see it there. And I know there's always a little bit of a flurry of an uptick after the socials when people do start posting. So if you ever need inspiration and you were unable to attend a social, that's a really good time to check on the app. I especially like to see it if the weekday kind of journal prompt events that I can't quite go to, they have such amazing visual opening activities. So it's always really fun to kind of see those slightly out of context. So I love seeing, if we do rainbows or gardens or all of those creative things that you can see. Same thing with Geno's coloring socials to then see all the completed coloring pages is really fun. So just keep that in mind. If you can't attend them in person, we do have them recorded, so you can go check out the YouTube app, but you can also love seeing the Silk and Sonder app for those events thing as well to kind of catch up. And then again, that quick reminder for the Savoring Summer event, July 22nd. It is 75 minutes because the last time we did it, I think Meha and Maya went almost 2 hours. So it's definitely there to ask your questions, get your ideas out there. It'll be super fun. And then also check out Eventbrite, which is where all of our events are listed because there is another exclusive. It'll be free, I believe, coming later. Again, that you all asked that Jen is going to be hosting. I'm going to be her stage manager, and we're so excited about it. I feel like it's one of those, if you know, you know, because we didn't do it last year, but it may make an appearance. So we're really excited about that. And then here is a copy of my playlist. I will include the Spotify link there. As I said, I save all of my playlists from all of my socials. So they tend to be about 30 minutes if you're looking for inspiration. I get really excited about finding all of these great violinists, violists, quartets that have just really fun, creative ways and style and musicality to play all the songs that we know and love. But please enjoy the rest of your day. It's National Ice Cream Day. What better excuse to have a sweet treat than today? Ronald Reagan dubbed it National Ice Cream Day. So go out and do that. But I know you're going to have an amazing rest of your day. You're going to have an amazing rest of your weekend. And I cannot wait to continue to share and savor the month of July with each and every one of you. And we hope to see you at a future event real soon. Bye.